This is good. Yeah, okay, cool.
Hi everyone, it is Friday again, which means a new episode of Chats with Chels.
I'm Chels.
He's Chels. So for those of you who don't recognize his face, which I think will be pretty impossible because, you know, he's a famous TV star now, it's Jason Piercey of
Tiny Fish, Small Pond.
Of the Ask Jason show, and more recently, Out of the Fog.
Yeah.
So if you just want to get started by giving us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and what you do while I pour us a Yellow Belly Pale Ale today.
Oh, the pale ale, nice. Okay, so my name is Jason. I do a few different things. Most of my time and most of my money comes from real estate, so I'm a realtor. I've got a couple of real estate partners, but we help people buy and sell houses and make money from it. And that's how I feed my family and my wife and my kid and pay my mortgage. This is a little bit inarticulate. You can't see it, but what's being poured in front of me really has me... I'm distracted.
You wouldn't be distracted by a cold beer on a Friday,
exactly. Right? So cheers. Best podcast ever. Okay. So I started this thing called the Ask Jason show, which is where people send me questions about real estate and I answer them in a Facebook-based Q&A show, filmed similar to this. And it has turned into a bit of a brand thing for me. And now people contact me because I have positioned myself as a bit of an industry expert, at least to a demographic that finds my particular brand of sarcasm and energy palatable. And so that's sort of who I am.
I'm actually just remembering, now that I think about it and you saying that, the first time I've ever seen Jason at all was...
I don't know this, whatever she's about to say.
No, he doesn't. So there was a CBC article, I think. You may have done like a consultation for them.
Yeah, I've done a couple.
Standing in front of my house specifically. So...
Really? They're on where Mary Brown used to be? Yeah, okay, yeah.
So I was like, why is my house on CBC? And also, there's just this random man who's standing here and talking about my house, so...
Yeah. More specifically, I was talking about the empty school across the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know...
But I did make reference to the development that you're in. Yeah. Yeah.
So, the Ask Jason show...
See? Did things... Like when... Okay, so if you have not seen the show... I get a little bit of flack because people think that I do this gimmicky thing where I'll say the Ask Jason show. And I like enunciate it really firmly like that. But it's because if I say it fast, that's what happens. The Ask Jason show.
Okay, I just got called out a little by my podcast guest today.
You knew who I was.
I knew who he was. So how did you get the idea to start doing that? That's so unique. That's not something that you see many realtors do. Even in the social media sphere, I don't feel like as many realtors are even taking advantage of that yet.
It's a huge amount of white space.
Right.
And it's, to me, as an entire industry, we should be a little bit quasi-embarrassed by how little forward momentum we have as an industry, and revealing the truths behind the myth sort of about real estate and how real estate gets done was sort of a motivating factor for it. But what really happened was, if you're out in a group of people and you meet new friends, right? Excuse me, sorry, beer. I apologize, gross. Invariably, one of the questions that people ask is so what do you do? And then we answer, all right? And I'm like, I'm in real estate. I help people buy and sell houses. And as people, we want to be friends and know people and communicate, and we care what people think about us, even though sometimes we shouldn't. And invariably, they will try to relate to you with their own stories. But we're also the worst. And we always tell the worst stories about our experiences. So when I would tell people that I was in real estate, they would just tell me all of the shitty things that... Can I say shitty?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
They would it's live, it could be edited.
This is so many questions, a question by so many people.
Can I say shitty? Yeah, it's probably worse than shitty sometimes. And they would just tell you all the terrible stories of stuff that they went through. And it wasn't their fault. They just didn't know any better. I did this, and then my house was full of mold, or it cost me an extra couple of $1,000s after I moved in because I didn't know this thing. And I just got sick of hearing that all of these good people did stupid things that weren't their fault. They just didn't know any better. And I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but as a member of the Canadian Real Estate Association and Newfoundland Labrador Association
I totally know
of Realtors.
all about that. I'm such a realtor.
Yeah. Because of that, we have like a really strict code of ethics and a code of conduct. And this is, I made it stop. My ringer is me telling myself to answer the phone. So and that means that one of the things is I can't really give real estate advice to somebody who's in an agent-client relationship with a different agent, right? Oh. So I was like, how do I tell everybody all of the things that they need to know that maybe their realtor is doing what I consider to be a lesser job than they should in informing them in their transactions. So I was like, I'm just going to like do videos and put it up there for everyone to see. Yep. And if everyone can see it, I'm not targeting anybody. And
so basically you're like, how can I circumvent the rules ethically?
That's sort of like, that's like my entire life summed up in one. How can I circumvent the rules ethically? That's about right.
So you were saying, I just caught that, the whole thing, like when you meet someone, you're like trying to find like a way to like be relatable. So in that like little 10-second elevator pitch, how do you do that now?
Now I have a really, really hard time with it because not in my, like I do real estate, but I've got a bit of a brand identity issue right now that I'm trying to fix. So like I do real estate and the Ask Jason show, which has a little bit of sponsorship stuff, and that spun itself into a video production company, a marketing company that I have with my business partner, Director Joe, who films the Ask Jason show. But we're also, we have Out of the Fog on Rogers that we make together, and now we're doing another show for Rogers also. So like I've got a little bit of a brand identity issue. So now when people say like, so what do you do? I'm like, stuff. I have real estate and make videos and stuff.
I totally feel the same way actually. People are like, what do you do? And I'm like,
Instagram.
Instagram, social media management. I make people websites and like,
yeah,
you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like a problem for a lot of people now, especially with like the growth of like side hustles, right? So you're not just like, oh, I'm an accountant. You're like, I'm an accountant, but also I have like this cool donut business or I like these cupcakes.
I make soap. I sell the best socks that Nan could possibly knit at the flea market and at the farmer's market. And like everybody's got like a side hustle. And it's cool to have a side hustle now.
Right, I totally think that too. I actually just saw Futurepreneurs doing a thing too, where they're like sponsoring side hustles. So you don't need to just have like this full like business plan where I'm going to do 40 hours a week in like full-time business. Futurepreneurs actually offering it that you can just start a small business on the side.
Because it's so scary, because I left behind a pretty good salaried gig when I started my own real estate business. So it's really hard to make that leap. And in order to get traditional types of financing to start another business, like you sort of need to dedicate a lot of your time to it. And if you're not in a position to be able to do it because like I've got a wife and a child, like that's a scary thing. Like you got mortgage payments, you got, right? And if you have somebody out there who's willing to give money to let you grow a side hustle to test it and see if it could turn into a thing, I think that's deadly.
I totally agree. So at which point for you were you like, I'm going to make this side hustle become my full-time job?
It was mental health driven.
Really?
Yeah. So without saying too much, because I'm like, I think that what Sally says about Jane says more about Sally than it does about Jane. Like I'm a subscriber to that belief. I think it's really true. But I worked in an environment previously that wasn't good for my mental health. And I realized that I needed to get out of there, not for money, but for sanity. And I made, that was the straw and the camel back. But then once I was out there and I recognized that when I have the right energy and the right mindset, I was like progressing to become like a little bit unstoppable in some weird way. Like not in like a ego weird way, but like if I wanted to do a thing, I could, like I had the ability, I could do it, right? And so then I just started, and it was so cool.
It's so funny. I've actually like looked at some studies too that are saying like so many people who have mental health issues become entrepreneurs, and they become some of the best entrepreneurs. Like myself, I have pretty severe ADD, so I've just, looked into other entrepreneurs who have the same thing.
So my formal education is in psychology. Yes. I am undiagnosed, but I'm certain that I have ADD. 100%. And what it used to be like, as you can tell by the way I'm taking, excuse me, cats and chase, it used to be that when I was doing things that I didn't want to do, I would get distracted and go do whatever I could to avoid the thing.
You're describing my life.
Yeah, I don't want to do that thing, so I'll play my guitar, or I'll be on Facebook, or I'll go get a coffee, or I'll walk down the hall to visit somebody in their office. But now I got a half a dozen things that I really love to do, so I just go back and forth from one thing that's productive and fun to another, outsource the shit that I don't want to do. It's ADD is a superpower.
Exactly, right? And the thing is that a lot of people don't recognize, there is obviously disability components to it that are awful, but there's this weird thing that you get, and it's called super focus, or hyper focus.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
I will procrastinate doing something forever, but then all of a sudden I'm I have to do this tomorrow. So I just sit down with my laptop or whatever, and it's just 4 hours of just full unadulterated productivity.
Yep.
And it's just such a bizarre thing, right?
Here's the way that I explain that concept, because other people, they don't get it. It's kind of but if you can't focus on one thing for a long period of time, how can you have these moments of crazy focus? Well, it's sort of inverted. It's kind of if you go a long time without sleep.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Eventually, your body just goes... and you suck up all the sleep that you missed, and for a long period of time you are super asleep, right? And it's sort of the same thing with focus when it comes to somebody who bounces around a lot. Eventually your mind is just dude, stay fucking still for 10 seconds, and you laser in on something.
And I've totally that's such an awesome explanation. I've actually never even thought of it that way. So for me, that's awesome.
I haven't either up until 10 seconds. I swear to God, that is the first time I've ever said that in my life. True.
That was pretty magnificent. So I think another thing with the ADD brain, I guess, for me is, doing this show, and like you said, we were talking about earlier, I'm good with questions. You just ask me a question and I'll think. And I feel the same way too. You're always on your toes. I find you have a little bit of a faster thinking capacity, right?
It's a superpower. And you're not hampered by what other people think.
Exactly.
Because you don't have time to be concerned with it, right? Yep. I often say, sometimes to my own detriment, that I don't care what other people think, and people take it the wrong way. But I don't mean that, I don't care what you think, in that if I hurt your feelings, it doesn't bother me, because it does. I'm a good human being. I want other people to be happy, and I don't ever want to hurt somebody. But I don't care what you think about me. So, if you don't like me, I'm oh, that's a shame. Next,
I'm totally feeling that about you right now.
Next question.
Yeah, for me though, I found one of the major things is, being able to harness that productivity by making your own hours. And for me, I'm extra productive in the morning. I'm a total morning person.
Yeah.
So I'm here early and getting things done. But by the afternoon, I'm dead. 4 or 5.
If I'm working early, it's because I'm still working from late. So I'm not an early morning person.
Oh man, you're missing out. Missing daylight.
Well, yes, I am, but I don't need daylight to do the things
that's
that
totally
I need to do.
I think that people have different working hours for sure. I'm just the annoyingly cheery morning person. I'm good morning, how are you? How's your night?
I have an appreciation for that. I definitely do have an appreciation for that. It's just not my jam.
That's totally understandable.
You know what I mean?
That's just nighttime is just not my jam.
Right?
10:30, I'm a grandmother of 7.
You look great.
Thank you. I know, for 90. I am in bed at 10:30. I'm okay, midnight for me, that's I'm up way too late.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's why you start drinking at noon.
That's why I start drinking.
It wasn't afternoon.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's about 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
England, Iceland, Dublin, somewhere. I think.
I met a guy earlier today who speaks. No, it's not Iceland. In Norwegian. Well, it's not called Norwegian. It's saying you speak Mexican in Spanish, but
no, I'm pretty sure it's Norwegian.
No, it's something else.
Okay.
It's kind of it's not actually called German. It's Deutsch.
Okay.
So it's something anyway. Not relevant.
So
welcome to my world.
When you get too ADD people, this is what happens. Tangents.
Okay, focus.
Okay, so we're focusing. So the main reason that I wanted to chat with Jason today, well, you know, besides his awesomeness, is I love following Jason's pursuits on social media. If you guys...
Pursuits! I chase people a lot.
I don't know why you're laughing about this, because I've actually seen you chase up to people, like sneak up to them, so it's totally true. But he has just these awesome like little live tidbits, and you know, you're following along in his day. I'm like, I could basically be a realtor now because I just follow Jason's social media.
It's all it takes, really.
So one of the major things he's been using is Instagram stories. So how have you seen, you know, your brand build from that?
Okay, I'm really glad that, because I don't know if you guys know this, but like as the audience for Chels on Chats with Chels, but like we didn't, maybe it's because it's me, but we didn't discuss in detail what this conversation would be. But I'm really glad that this one came up because it's just such a natural progression. I said earlier that there's a little bit of an identity crisis or like a brand awareness issue with what my thing is. I decided this just in 2018 that Instagram would be the place where I talked about real estate. So like on stories, not necessarily on the post, but on the Instagram stories, that would be the documenting of the day of a realtor. That would be on Instagram. And the results, I mean, I guess I gotta call it a correlation because I can't specifically say that this thing came from this story, but I no longer have people say to me like, so are you still doing real estate? Because they do so many other things like that, right? It seems like the brand is a little firmly more entrenched in real estate now since I started to document the things that I'm doing during the day.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I saw an article, someone posted it in one of like the mastermind groups I'm in this week, and I think it was called like the elephant in the room, like, let's face it, Instagram influencers aren't influencing anything or anyone.
That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
I know, right? Like, I thought that it was like a pretty like kind of harsh article, and they were saying like...
It's not even accurate.
Their whole argument was that you can't measure the change. So you're like, oh, well, you know, someone stayed here or like stayed at my accommodations or ate at my restaurant, but because... you know, there's no measurable way, then it's not working.
This will be a little bit absurd, but it proves the same point. And do you know Gary Vaynerchuk? Do you know Gary V? Yeah, okay.
Does anyone not know Gary
I don't know, maybe. Anyway, I'm a fan of his, and I used to consume a ton of his content, and it helped me get my head straight with some of the ways that I would approach things that I do. Not so much now, because I'm fortunate and blessed and grateful enough to be pretty busy. So, where was I going with that? Yeah. It's like the data behind it isn't there, so they're like, well, you can't calculate the ROI, the return on investment. There's no like conversion ratio. You can't say it cost me this many dollars to do this many deals. But yeah, but like, what's the return on the investment like of your mother? What's the ROI of your mom?
I hope you don't actually want me to answer that.
No, but I'm just saying, like I have an incredible family. My mother is one of the best people I've ever met in my entire life. But I can't calculate to the number the value that she has added to me in my life. But it doesn't mean she doesn't have value. So whoever wrote that article, I think you're dumb. No, that's not true. Because I don't know you very well, but I do think you're wrong about this.
Yeah, and you know what? That's like totally one of the things that I felt as well. So I'm just gonna like go on a little tangent and tell a quick little story. So a couple weeks ago, I went to an Enlo event at ETC.
Yep.
And I picked up Entangled Gift Collection.
Oh.
Or Entangled something. Anyway, it's on Water Street. It's an amazing little shop, and you know, I got this pair of earrings, and they were made by like a local artisan. They're beautiful. They're made out of sea urchin. They're so sparkly.
Sea urchin?
Yeah, I know. Cool. It's so cool. But anyway, I put them on my Instagram feed.
Of course.
So I was like, I'm like big into like supporting like local business owners, specifically women business owners, and I was like, hey, I'm just gonna, you know, put these on. Within like an hour, I had like 3 people messaging me, being like, where'd you get those earrings? How can I buy them? And then like 2 of my friends were actually like, okay, I'm gonna go buy some. So I think that a lot of brands, especially locally, should be like considering working with, you know, smaller like micro influencers, because, you know, if you give like a free product, so if that person promotes it and it's like just so many of their friends, right?
I did something sort of similar, but I knew that it was going to be able to happen. So like I orchestrated it kind of. So I was hosting an event at Jack Axe's.
Yep.
And we were down there talking to Adrian Beaton, who owns Jack Axe. He's a great dude. I really like Adrian. And they have apparel down there. They have hoodies and t-shirts and stuff like that. And they had this one red hoodie there that fit me. And I don't know, they cost like $50 or $60. It's a reasonable price for a high quality hoodie.
Yeah.
And I just said, I'm going to put that hoodie on and I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to post it to Facebook. How many comments do I have to get before I leave with the hoodie? And I don't have to pay for it. And he just kind of laughed at me. He was like, I don't know, man, like 20? I was like, dude, no. I said, how about 200? And he was like, sure, no problem. But I got the 200.
Yeah.
And but like a half hour later, it was like 60 something, and we were still there having our conversation. He was like, all right, I get it. You can go with it. And I don't know if anybody ever bought it, but it's got his brand across it. It's not necessarily that they have to go buy those earrings.
Yeah.
So they know who that person is now.
Yeah.
And that costs like nothing.
Exactly. You're so right. It's funny. I went to the Memorial Center for Entrepreneurship Embark Conference, and in the marketing and branding section, Adrian was actually there speaking.
He's excellent.
And yeah, he's so funny and he's amazing. But one of the things that I just really loved was he was talking about like creating, I guess, like great content, especially when it comes to Instagram. And he's like, you know, people don't go on Instagram to like see like, you know, a picture of an ad. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're going on to see like great content. They're going on to see Jason Momoa fire an axe at a board and get it on the first try.
Yep.
So that was one of the things that, you know, I found really interesting, because my Instagram pet peeve is Facebook screenshots. I'm like, you know, creating distinct content for each.
And do you know what else drives me nuts? When I'm scrolling through Facebook and it's like posted via Instagram. I'm like, no, you're lazy. And I hate that.
I share it, but I also create unique content.
Yeah, like I hate when I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see a picture that somebody posted. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And like the write up, and I'm like, why are there hashtags? You're lazy.
I take out the hashtags. But yeah, that's one of the things I'm
but
always.
When they auto post,
no, I don't
drives me nuts.
I only pick like very specific, like, you know, like 1 or 2 like Instagram posts a week. So I actually post probably 5 to 7 times, but I only pick out the ones that are like super relevant for like Facebook. Yeah. And then I'll share them. And I'm very selective with that, just to keep like those two kind of entities separate.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that there is so many people that they only exclusively make content for one platform, but then share it across every single
I think you would be better off not using the other platforms if it was just going to be like, just like Twitter is a really good example.
Twitter
if you have some, no, there are reasons to use Twitter. It's good for business development, not necessarily good for sales and marketing, and really good for customer service.
Yes.
This happens to my brain sometimes. Yeah, so if I go to post something to Instagram and just within the Instagram app I can send it to Twitter, it's not like the picture doesn't show up on Twitter. It's a link, and I gotta click on. So that is a total waste of your time. Nobody wants to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. And I feel like even like using like a bunch of hashtags on Facebook, I just don't feel like Facebook is like a hashtag space. Like,
not really. Like if I put a hashtag on Facebook, I'm not doing it for what a hashtag is meant for.
Usually it's just me being facetious.
Yeah, I'm doing it because I think that what I'm saying in the hashtag is funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Not because I'm using a hashtag. I'm just right.
That's how I feel as well.
Yeah.
So as a, you know, super Instagram story, you know, going live all the time, Jason expressed to me earlier that he is super comfortable going live and, you know, catching these questions. So, you know, if you're someone who's like just kind of getting started and you're like, like, what if I mess up? I'm not really comfortable. I'm so scared. I don't want to do a live. Yep. So what are your tips for getting comfortable with those?
It's just exposure. Like there's a couple of things that make you uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable only because you don't know what it's going to look like when it's done. Mm-hmm. And every time that you go film yourself and you do it in selfie mode. See, this is the problem. Yeah. People use selfie mode all of the time. And what they see is like this what appears to them to be this weird, distorted, inverted image of them where their hair is parted on the wrong side and everything looks weird and you're like, that doesn't look like me. But you're the only person who thinks that doesn't look like you. That's what everybody else in the world sees.
Yeah.
Right? So like when I'm on the set, like when I'm looking at this right now, my hair part's this way. But when I'm on the set of Out of the Fog and it's filmed different because this is in selfie mode and it's filmed the other way, I look in the mirror and I look at the screen and it looks like the part is over here, and then I go to try and fix it and it like messes up because of the way these systems work. So you're used to seeing a you that you see in the mirror that doesn't exist. You are the only person who knows this bizarre version of yourself. So when you see yourself on camera, that's the you that everyone else in the world sees every day. So that doesn't look weird. That looks normal. The only way to get used to this is to understand it and to just repeatedly do it. So what I would do is I would be on my way to an appointment and I would have like some sales pitch or some conversation I was going to have. And I would like have my phone in front of me and this is the key to my office. And anybody have one of these? These things are deadly. The pop sockets? Yeah, they're excellent. So, and I would just like make a little video talking to this like little lens there as though it were a human being. And I would say what I'm going to say to the person. And then I would watch it back and I'd be like, would I buy anything from that asshole? And if the answer is no, then I would do the video again and again and again and again. And it got to the point where now I always know what I'm going to look like on video because I've done it so many times. So why would I be afraid? I'm confident in my ability to answer questions related to the lane that I'm in because I know that I've been at it long enough. I'm good at it. The production is there. And I also know what the video is going to look like after the fact. Like, I don't need to go back after and watch this video.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I mean, I probably will. It'll be on in the background or whatever, but I don't need to know what it was like because I've done enough of this stuff, right? So get yourself used to seeing that bizarre, distorted mirror image of yourself because that's the real you. You're the only person who thinks that's weird. So get used to seeing that, and then you'll know what you look like. And when you know what you look like, you don't have to be anxious because you're just talking.
You're just being Miley.
Yeah, you're just being Miley. Party in the USA.
It's one of my favorite songs. And I think for me too, like one of my most funniest things about doing these Facebook Live videos is that for some reason, Facebook always picks out the most unflattering screenshot from your video. It's like if you have a picture like 1 second in your video where you have like 7 chins, your eyes are crumpled, like you look like you're dying.
If you don't upload it from your phone, you know what I mean? You can, if you have like if you download the video and then re-upload it.
I've learned that. I usually go on and now I like pick the screenshot just so I can.
You can totally do that.
I can totally do that.
It's like they do it intentionally. They're like, you get the one where you're like.
I know, right? Yeah, that's so. Or like, I'll be like to the side and like my nose is all scrunched and I'm like, do I look like that? But apparently I do. So
you do.
That's how the world sees me.
That's how we all look like that.
So I guess that kind of concludes the chat portion. So as some of you guys know, or most of my weekly watchers, we have the jar of awesome. So if you guys want to send in some questions that you feel like asking my awesome guests here to put in, go ahead and do that. You can send me an email, leave a comment. But what we're going to do now...
It's a great idea.
I know, right? I'm a big fan. So I've had some submitted from people who follow along on social media, and a lot of them are, things that I want to know. So
So just pull one out and answer?
Yeah, we usually pick 3. So
3?
I know.
Like take 3...
One at a time. Or you can take 3 at once. I guess there's no judgment here.
I'm going to take like 3 different colors.
Okay.
Because like they're all...
okay.
Okay, all right. 3 questions. See, this is the thing. See how this is backwards? This is exactly what I'm talking about. How do you deal with a negative person? I just give them the axe, man. I don't need it in my life.
That's a totally good...
I just I mean, I will be polite and I will try my best to guide the conversation I'm having with you to a place. Like I had breakfast with a friend, a very good friend of mine, a couple of weeks ago. And she is a wonderful human being, but she's just got this propensity to always complain about something. So I was like half finished my breakfast and I was just like, so what's going on that's really good in your life right now? Because I'm going to leave if you stay this.
Yeah.
Just go back in the jar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cut them out. You don't need them.
I totally feel that way too, right? And like sometimes like you just gotta take a deep breath and be like, one of my, I guess, mantras is like, if someone is acting this shitty to you, chances are they are like a shitty person themselves and have a lot going on. So I try to understand it, but generally I don't put up with it either.
Yeah, and if they're acting that shitty to your face,
right? Exactly.
What is the best $50 or less dollars you have ever spent? The best $50 or less dollars I have ever spent. I'm going to get super practical with you right here.
Okay.
The guy I buy my homemade wine off of.
Is that legal? Circumventing? Just kidding.
No. So I like wine, and at the liquor store, you can buy bags of wine. Now, I'm not pretentious, but stick with me here. Yeah, I like red wine. You can buy bags of wine. There's the equivalent of three bottles, and it's Grand Banker is the name of the winery, and they're from Nova Scotia, or they're in Nova Scotia, but they're from the Grand Banks in Newfoundland, and they make a really good Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's 37 something. And that's a really good price for 4 bottles of wine.
4 bottles. That is a really good price.
4 bottles of wine.
I actually make mine myself. So I make it at home. So, maybe Christmas time comes around, you might get a little bottle. I
hope so.
I usually put a pun on my labels too, so be prepared.
Let's see, what do we got here? What profession other than your own would you... I would love... You know what? If I wasn't doing any of the stuff that I'm doing now, because they're all things that I want to do. I don't subscribe to the belief that you do things for money. I do things that I want to do and money just happens to happen, which is glorious. I would act.
I totally believe your ability to do that.
Yeah, if I wasn't doing real estate or marketing or any of the other stuff, I think I would act.
I can see you in an acting role.
Yeah, it'd be good.
If here's just like a little funny.
If I lost weight, is that what you're gonna say? I'm in a shape right now.
He's clinically obese.
If that's true. This was on an Instagram story. I went to my doctor, and I have my wife is an insomniac, and I snore apparently now, and that those two things like diagnosed a real insomniac like you see in movies, and I keep her awake or I wake her up and all these other things. And so I went to my doctor to talk about it, and he took my height and weight and did a little calculation, the BMI thing. And then it got really awkward about having to tell me that I'm clinically stage 1 obese. But come on, I'm doing all right. That was my nipple. Okay, yeah.
But what I just started to say, on the lines of improvisation, this year I went to New Zealand. So, pretty cool. And I went to the Lord of the Rings, Hobbiton, typical tourist, what everyone does. So, apparently there's a scene in Lord of the Rings, and the guy who plays Gandalf is super, super friggin' tall. He's I don't know, just extra tall.
Yeah.
And apparently, on the set of the Hobbit holes, they were, made smaller to make him look even taller.
Yeah.
And when he's, talking to Frodo in the Hobbit hole, around, the first of the movie, he, bumps into the, beam?
Yeah.
He bumps into the beam, and he's like, oh, and then he, turns around and, bumps into the chandelier. And that was, a legit thing that happened. That wasn't scripted.
And it's in the movie, though.
It's in it. He just kept going, yeah.
Cool. That's funny.
That's a fun little tidbit and a fun fact for your Friday. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're following along on YouTube or iTunes. And this will be up on both of those channels later today.
All right.